So today what I have for you today, I have some important points, some important topic. That is William Wordsworth, Tintin Abbey. Already I told you कि when I talk about this poem Tintin Abbey, before sharing PDF file, I would like to tell you some important facts, some important points related to this poem. Number one, when I talk about Tintin Abbey, we have to keep in our mind that Tintin Abbey is what? It's a dramatic lyric. अगर कोई भी क्वेश्चन कभी भी पूछता है कि व्हाट इज द फॉर्म ऑफ द पोएम, द फॉर्म ऑफ द पोएम इज इट्स कंपोज्ड इन ड्रामेटिक लिरिक. कौन सी लिरिक में है? ड्रामेटिक लिरिक में है. So if anyone asks you what is Tintin Abbey, Tintin Abbey is a dramatic lyric. Number one point. Number two point, it's written in blank verse. It's written in blank verse. Now I would like to explain these two things. What is dramatic lyric? Dramatic lyric is a form of poem. It's a type of poem, and you will come to know in dramatic lyric the poet is only the speaker in the poem या throughout the poem. The poet is only the speaker throughout the poem. केवल जो पोएट है वही अकेले स्पीकर होगा. कहाँ पर होगा? थ्रू आउट द पोएम होगा. वन सिग्निफिकेंट पॉइंट. सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट कि द रिमेनिंग कैरेक्टर्स विल वर्क एज लिसनर. जो रिमेनिंग कैरेक्टर्स होंगे वो लिसनर के रूप में काम करेंगे. नाउ मैंने दो चीजें बताई है कि इन ड्रामेटिक लिरिक्स हु विल बी द स्पीकर? द पोएट विल बी द स्पीकर. और जो भी रिमेनिंग कैरेक्टर्स है दे विल वर्क एज अ लिसनर. अब सवाल ये उठता है कि डू यू फाइंड विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ एज अ स्पीकर इन टिंटन अबे? यस, you find William Wordsworth as a speaker in Tintin Abbey. Throughout the poem, only Wordsworth speaks. Wordsworth के अलावा कोई दूसरा उसमें नहीं बोलता है. अब दूसरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि who is the listener? His sister Dorothy Wordsworth is the listener. ये चीज आपको ध्यान में रखना है. The second important point, how dramatic lyric is different from dramatic monologue. How does it differ? How does it differ from dramatic monologue? In dramatic monologue, the speaker will not be the poet. Dramatic monologue में speaker जो होगा वो poet नहीं होगा. But who will be the speaker? The speaker will be any third person. For example, if I talk about my last duchess, in the poem, my last duchess, in the poem, my last duchess, uh, you will come to know the speaker is Duke. And who is the listener? The messenger who came with the proposal of the marriage. In my last duchess, the speaker is not Robert Browning. In the same way, if you go with Ulysses, in the poem Ulysses, the speaker is who? The speaker is Ulysses. The speaker is not the poet. And who is the listener? You can say the peers or equal peers, or you can say friends of Ulysses. Ulysses addresses his friends are great warriors. They are the listener. So important thing is that dramatic monologue or dramatic lyric, dramatic monologue is an you can say the objective form of poetry, dramatic monologue. The same way you find the dramatic lyric also, but in dramatic lyric you find the personality of the poet. You find the personality of the poet. As far as matter is concerned, it's composed in blank verse. Then the question is, what is blank verse? Already I told you कि blank verse means unrhymed form of verse. So many times I explained recently when I delivered a lecture on neoclassical age. I delivered a lecture on another platform that was GIC wala mains ka. I also explained there about blank verse. Ki blank verse is an unrhymed form of verse. Blank verse was first introduced by Henry Howard अल्लाफ सरी. ब्लैंक वर्स को सबसे पहले किसने इंट्रोड्यूस किया था? हेनरी होवर्ड अल्लाफ सरी ने इन 1540 1540 में. और जब उन्होंने इंट्रोड्यूस किया था तो ही ट्रांसलेटेड वर्जिस एनीड द फर्स्ट लिटरेरी एपिक ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, स्पेशली बुक सेकेंड एंड बुक फोर. उसका ट्रांसलेशन जब उन्होंने लैटिन से इंग्लिश में किया, then he introduced blank verse. Now the third point, what are the basic characteristics of Tintin Abbey and what is the significance of the title? First, I would like to go with the title. Why Tintin Abbey? You will come to know Tintin Abbey is a beautiful natural place. It's a beautiful natural place covered with shadowy trees, thick forest, greenery, open field, open sky, natural atmosphere. And Wordsworth visited that place for the first time in 1793. Wordsworth visited that place for the first time in 1793. After a gap of 5 years, he revisited that place in 1798. So, what happened? When Wordsworth visited for the first time, that time Wordsworth was not a mature Wordsworth. Wordsworth was not a mature Wordsworth. And you will come to know he was much fascinated with the beauty of that place. It attracted, it gave a type of pleasure which can't be expressed in Wordsworth, which can't be expressed in words, which can't be expressed in words. And he was much fascinated, he was much attracted, he was much enlightened and delighted, got pleasure, got calm, beauty, tranquility. So many things you can the word. Some positive adjectives, some positive words we can use as Wordsworth tells, as Wordsworth describes. But you will come to know that time, for the first time, when Wordsworth visited that place, he was only fascinated by its external beauty. By its external beauty. In 1793, when he visited that place, he was only fascinated, he was only attracted by its external beauty, the beauty of natural objects. So, what I want to say, what I want to tell, when I, yeah, when anyone read the poem, he must go with the situation, under what situation the poem has been composed, under what situation the poem has been written. So, you will come to know the greenery, open sky, open field, the beauty of the river Wye, and some other fascinating objects. Wordsworth beholded it. Wordsworth not saw it. What the word I'm using, he beholded it. Behold का मतलब है निहारना. उन्होंने इसको निहारा. When I use the word beholding, it means that something it shows something love, something affection, attachment, something that particular thing which you are looking for or beholding, that's very near and dear in your eye. Yeah, that's a very you can say a lovable object, a lovable thing. And other important point which you have to keep in your mind, that is in 17, after a gap of 5 years, after a gap of 5 years, in 1798, he revisited that place. And when he revisited or went there second time, he didn't find the beauty which he saw before 5 years. Why? First, he thought perhaps nature has completely changed. Nature has completely changed. But when he spent time, he found that change is change doesn't occur in nature, but change took place where change took place in Wordsworth. Wordsworth, before 5 years, Wordsworth was not a mature Wordsworth, and when he revisited that place in 1798, he is another Wordsworth who came to know about the philosophy of life. He came to know about the philosophy of life, about death, about God, about society, about tears, about smile, about joys, about sorrows. You can say something black and white aspect of life, presence and absence. So these mysterious or these mystical elements, yes, some mysterious questions, some truth, some mysterious questions or some truths related to life, related to life, Wordsworth felt within these 5 years. And when he revisited second time that place, he came to know that something which he saw, something which he beholded before 5 years, that's missing in the second visit. Because before 5 years, Wordsworth saw nature and natural objects only with open eyes. He could not lock his heart, he could not lock, he could not unlock, he could not unlock his heart, he could not unlock his soul. वो अपने हार्ट को और सोल को he could not unlock, उसको अनलॉक नहीं कर पाए थे. So what I want to tell you, when I not only Shamim, if anyone who will deliver a lecture on Wordsworth, you will come to know he will tell you these basic things. 1793, 1798, dramatic lyric, blank verse, the difference between 1793 and 1798. You have to keep in your mind, for the first time only see he could only see the external beauty of nature and natural objects. He didn't find mysticism, he didn't find pantheism, he didn't find nature as guide, guardian, caretaker, nurse, nature as sustainer, nature that gives the healing touch when he visited that place for the first time. So, if you remember, when I delivered a lecture on Augustan age, I also went with the topic, and that was what? That was pre-romantic poets of pre-romantic poetry, and I told you this school of poetry was started by James Thomson. He wrote a collection of the poems entitled The Season, which started in 1726 and completed in 1730. And I told you, under the leadership of that man, a school came that was pre-romantic school of poetry. It included Thomas Gray, elegy written in a country churchyard, William Collins' Ode to Evening. Even you will come to know Oliver Goldsmith's Deserted Village. And I just explained that you will come to know what they only described or appreciated external beauty of nature. They only appreciated the same thing, the same characteristics, the same attributes of nature you can see in the poetry of William Wordsworth, especially his poems composed in his early days, yeah, in the starting days of his career, the starting days of his career. And in 1793, when he visited that place for the first time, he found only the external beauty of nature. He used only his eyes. With open eyes, he saw nature, brightness, its beauty, rising of the sun, gurgling sound of the river, blowing of the air, chirping of the bird, and beautiful sky, bare sky, the beautiful moon, and so many objects, natural objects of nature, he could only saw. He could only saw. But when he revisited that place, yeah, when he went there second time after a gap of 5 years in 1798, he saw that, yeah, he felt that behind these objects, behind every natural object, some unseen power lies, some unseen power lies. There is a word unseen and then there is a word lies. अगर कोई चीज unseen है तो how you can say that power lies? Because when you use the word unseen, it means that you are not using your what? Your eyes. Seen only in that situation when you open your eye, when you look, when you cast your eye, when you look something, then it means that seen. But when you say some unseen, it means that if you feel that some power behind these objects that is unseen, it means that to see that object, you need to open your heart, you need to unlock your soul, you need to change your thought and mentality. And what is that? That when I talk about nature, nature does not mean that nature will come only in the form of an object, but the object, these objects which we see in our daily life, just as night, just as day, just as rising of the sun, just as setting of the sun, just as climbing of the moon, just as coming of the flood, just as earthquake, just as storms, just as life, just as death, whatever you talk, we ultimately think who is behind these things, who is behind these things, because it's not in the hand of any king, it's not in the hand of any Badshah, emperor, It's not in the hand of any CM, any PM who who monitor these things, who control these things. When I think some noble kings were, when we turn the pages of the history, we find there were some noble kings. They laid down the foundation of that dynasty. They expanded their kingdom, but they are no more in this world. So where have they gone? It means that there is another king that is known as King of Kings, Badshahon ka Badshah, that is God, that is Almighty God, that is omnipotent, that is omniscient, that is omnipresent, that is all in all, that is the master of life and death, that is the master of day and night, and someone addresses him as Ishwar, Parampita Parmeshwar, Allah, Bhagwan, so many names of that Almighty God we see. But in my view, when we read William Wordsworth, we come to know when we use the word nature, Nature, in capital letter, it does not mean we are talking about human nature. It does not mean that we are talking about something related to man and woman. No, not at all. But we are just talking about nature, sustainer, creator, master, owner, giver of life and death, and also the whole universe. The whole cycle of the life, the whole cycle of the universe, there is some unseen power that is controlled by that God, that is controlled by that nature. So you will come to know in the poems of William Wordsworth, nature means God. In the poem of William Wordsworth, nature means Almighty, you can say uh, Badshah, emperor, and that emperor is the emperor of all the worldly and earthly emperors. And why I'm saying, because the rotation of anything, whether that is the rising of the sun, setting of the sun, it's not in the hand of any earthly Badshah, any worldly Badshah who can control it. No, no, not at all. If it will be, if it will be, if it was, if it is in the hand of any king, then the king says, yeah, then the king will say, yeah, then the king said, no, I am the controller and it's in my hand. So I will give only sunlight to those people who follow me, who believe in me, yeah, who says that I am God. So no, not at all. It's in the hand of whom? It's in the hand of that nature. It's in the hand of that God who is the master of the universe. And other point which I would like to discuss with you, that is Wordsworth only tells constructive attributes of Almighty God. Constructive attributes. Wordsworth only tells that there is creativity in Almighty God, in nature. He doesn't tell the second aspect, which you can say the destructive aspect. What I want to say, what I want to tell you, he says that nature is guide, guardian, caretaker, nurse. Nature gives healing touch, fountain head of peace, calm, tranquility, and balm. Fountain head of peace, calm, tranquility, and balm. This is nature. This is nature. And other thing, you can just say, he appeals to all the people. He appeals to all the people to submit themselves in the lap of nature. He appeals to all the people. Next point, I would like to tell you, when I talk about nature, when I talk about Wordsworth's philosophy of nature, undoubtedly nature is in center. But Wordsworth says that what is the relationship between man and nature? Man is a receiver and nature is giver. Nature doesn't take anything to man, but man takes everything to nature. But to get something from nature, man has to be loyal. To get something from nature, man has to be man has to show dedication. उसे डेडिकेशन दिखाना पड़ेगा. Man has to show. Man means human. What I want to say, not on the basis of gender. I'm using this word man or woman. Just I'm telling you that man should be what? Loyal, dedicated, something you can say honest, something ready to welcome nature, something what the time he or she has, she or she should be ready to welcome nature with open heart and open mind, especially unlocking of the soul. And the next point, if I go with the poem, The World is Too Much with Us, that is a sonnet of William Wordsworth based on the Petrarchan model, you will come to know in that sonnet he criticizes the materialistic life which the people of that time were living. And you will come to know that we people have no time at all to behold the beauty of nature, nature that is full, nature that is, you can say, just like Panacea, Panecea, Panacea, रामबाण, सारे मर्ज की दवा. We don't have time to behold, we don't have time to go with nature and natural objects, and whatever we are doing, we are only spending time late at night only to earn money, to spend money, to just get the materialistic joy or materialistic pleasure, earthly joy or earthly pleasure, that is only for short time, a short, you can say, for short time. There is no perpetuality. That's not for it means everlasting, forever or everlasting. We don't find such thing. So what I want to say, what I want to tell you, whenever you take any poem, whether that is education of nature, three years she grew. In 3 years she grew, he says, कि 3 years she grew in sun and shower. Nature said a lovelier flower. On earth was never sown. This child I to myself will take. She shall be mine, and I will make a lady of my own. So what do you find? You find that is not the voice of William Wordsworth, but that is the voice of nature. Nature claims that this child, that is, you can say, an orphan that has lost her parents, but nature claims no. I will, I will be guide. I will be the guide. I will be the guardian, and I will brought up that particular child and turned it into lady. She will be educated. She will get everything in the lap of nature. So what I want to tell you, relationship between man and nature. And what did I tell you? I just told you, you find what? You find the constructive uh, aspect. You find uh, such things in nature which gives you, which doesn't, nature doesn't snatch anything. As Wordsworth has presented the aspect of nature. So what the aspect Wordsworth presents, especially any poem, whether that is the prelude, whether that is uh, his sonnets, whether that is ode on the intimations of immortality, you find healing touch, you find peace, you find calm, you find balm, you find tranquility. You just uh, you just you can say find delight, you find pleasure, you find something which which something which gives a type of joy or pleasure associated with your heart, associated with your soul. So that is the thing which you find. Just like you can say, if you go with Coleridge, Coleridge has presented supernatural aspect of nature. Keats found the concept of beauty in nature. Beauty is truth and truth is beauty. You will come to know P.B. Shelley found revolutionary spirit. If winter comes, shall spring be far behind? Both constructive and destructive. He uses the symbol of autumn and spring in ode to the west wind. But you doesn't find such type of symbols. Wordsworth only present the constructive aspect, constructive approach he sees. If you take the two beautiful lyrics of William Blake, The Tiger and the Lamb, in the tiger you find the destructive aspect. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? You find. And in the Lamb he says, Lamb, dost thou know who made thee, gave thee life, beat the feed? Such things you can just go whatever these two lyrics means when we talk about the lamb and the tiger composed by William Blake. Blake, Keats, Coleridge, Byron, and P.B. Shelley, they were the well-known poets of Romantic age. They all described nature, natural objects, but their ways of seeing nature, to behold nature, are different to some extent. Wordsworth only found healing touch. Wordsworth only found peace, calm, balm, tranquility in nature and natural world. In nature and natural world. Wordsworth found creativity in nature and natural world. Wordsworth found that nature only gives. Nature is giver. Nature doesn't expect. Nature doesn't take anything from human. Here, I would like to mention the beautiful sonnet of John Milton on his blindness, when he says that God doth not need either man's work or his own gift. God only wants to see who is devoted, truly devoted, who is loyal to God. God only needs this. God only wants to know. So I would like to tell you one important point, and that is very important whenever you read any poem, whether that is ode on the intimation of immortality, Tintin Abbey, education of, you can say, nature, education of nature. Yeah, you take any poem, any short come poem, Solitary Reaper. Always you find that there is a binding between man and nature, and that binding is based on compassion. That binding is based on generosity. That binding is based on loyalty. That binding is based on beauty, beauty of humanity. That binding is based on affection. That binding is based on attachment. That binding is based on fascination and attraction. That binding is based on the binding of allurement. So, what I want to say, what I want to tell you, whenever you take verse 1, whenever you read verse 1, whether that is my class, whether anyone deliver any lecture, always keep these points in your mind. Always you have to keep. That is generosity, that is compassion, that is healing touch, that is balm, that is tranquility, external beauty of nature, internal beauty of nature, and the philosophical beauty of nature. That is mysticism, something which is unbelievable, but still we believe, something which is which can't we see with our open eye, but we try to see. But how unlocking heart, unlocking soul. So these things we have to keep in our mind. And what the constructive aspect? We find creativity in nature when we read William Wordsworth, any poem of William Wordsworth. And Wordsworth says that I'm the ardent worshipper of nature. When I use the word ardent worshipper of nature, it means that he firmly believes that he is a true worshipper of nature. As we all believe ईश्वर में, we all believe कि ईश्वर करुणा एवं दया का सागर है. ईश्वर is Rahim and Rahim. We believe. When we believe कि he is a, we believe, we believe that Almighty God is the ocean of mercy. We believe that Almighty God shows bliss. Almighty God just, what does Almighty God just shards, shards, what shards? Sun, and you can say just gives His blessing. We find the grace of Almighty God. So what we say, what we do, we believe that sustainer, creator, uh, uh, that is what we always seek the blessing of God. What we what we do when we worship God in honest way, in honest way, when we worship God, we expect something. When we remember God with open heart, we truly submit our heart, we truly submit our soul, we truly dedicate ourselves in the lap of God, and we become a puppet. We become like an innocent child, and we say, "Oh Almighty God, please forgive whatever the sin we have committed." That time we don't remember our position. That time we don't remember our designation. That time we forget what are we. We only remember that God is God, that is Almighty, that is our Creator, that is our Sustainer, that is the controller of the whole universe, and we are only. So when we remember these things, what do we find? we find that Almighty God is everything. We expect that our life will be bright. We expect that our future days will be bright. Our coming generation will enjoy. They will be good human beings to whom we expect. We ask these things to Almighty God. We don't expect these things with any emperor, any CM, any PM, or anyone who is in power. No, not at all. And when we say that I am the true worshipper of God, I am the ardent worshipper of God, it means that we don't have any type of, you can say, uh, something, any negativity. At that time, we are not a clever, you can say, man or woman, because worshipping of God means purity of soul, purity of heart, true dedication, loyalty, and nothing we expect कि I will give to it to God, then God will give to me. No, not at all. Such a type of chemistry in worshipping of God we don't find at all. We don't find. So that's the basic part. That's the significant part. That's the important part which we get here. So before going with the poem, before taking any word, before taking any line of that poem, here I would like to only explain how we can understand, how we can go. You find simplicity, simplicity of words, you find poetic diction, selection of words, you find something philosophy of life, man and woman relationship, you find something which I can't express in words. That is the attachment, that is the relationship, that is, you can use the word humanity, goodness, virtue, creativity, beauty, delight, pleasure, calm, tranquility, solace, comfort, joy, whatever the word you would like to use. But with these words, you have also keep in your mind that is what that is a, you can say, mysticism and pantheism. God is object and object is God. If I say in the name of Almighty God, the most beneficent and most merciful, if I use this sentence, the same spirit in Hindi, if I use Ishwar Karuna एवं दया का सागर है, the same spirit we find where we find in the poetry of William Wordsworth. Nature sustainer, nature creator, nature giver, fountain head of humanity, fountain head of peace, calm, tranquility, and warmth. Objects which have been presented by William Wordsworth, natural objects, beauty of the moon, bare sky, twinkling of the stars, bright light of the sun, that's only object. But behind these objects, there is some unseen power. There is some unseen power that is controlled by Almighty God. That is the true point of Wordsworth, which we see. So, in today's class, I have not taken any word, I have not taken anything that is from the poem, especially Tintanabe. I have discussed with you Tintanabe as a whole. I have discussed with you Wordsworth's concept of nature, man-nature relationship, Wordsworth philosophy of law, philosophy of nature, Wordsworth basic characteristics of his poem, and other aspects which you can see. And to make Wordsworth, the French Revolution, which occurred in 1789, that has the slogan liberty, equality, and fraternity, it influenced. Other point, if I talk about Rousseau, you will come to know return to nature, education supplements man's nature, man is uh, a very beautiful slogan, and that was man is born free, chained everywhere, and pre-romantic poets, Elizabethan poetry, medieval setting or the medieval structure or the poetry in the Middle Ages, and you can say Milton's uh, how did he present things, how did he compose the poem, these things influenced widely this man, these things. The French Revolution, Rousseau, Godwin's political justice, supernatural concept of Coleridge, and his true friend and his sister Dorothy Wordsworth. And like a wanderer, he went hither and thither, found it very uh, closely, saw, and also the translation of the Gita from Sanskrit into English in 1785 by John Wilkinson. So these were the things that shaped the career of this man, that made Wordsworth, that made Wordsworth capable to see some unseen power behind these natural objects. So I did it. I just told you what you can do, how you can understand. I have delivered a lecture earlier on romantic age, and so many lectures related to Wordsworth and romantic age is available on my YouTube channel. If you go with any topic related to romantic era, romantic age, if you just put title and my name, you will be able to find. So I'm not saying that what the lecture I delivered you today, you have to go only with this lecture. No, not at all. Except it, you have to go the lecture which I delivered earlier that is available on my YouTube channel, and you will come to know the beauty of this poem, the beauty of this poet. So, and if I upload this video there, and if anyone watch, you can just leave your comment. And so many times I requested to all of you to just go with my channel, like it, subscribe it, and whatever you find there, if anything is fruitful, you can just leave your comment. And if you have any beautiful suggestion, if you recommend, I would like to go. I would like. I will do my best to create a video on any topic if you have any problem. But it's a special class for LP, and I have to take Tintin Abbey. But today I only explain without taking even a single line. I hope you have enjoyed this session. If you have any query, you can ask, and you can also send your feedback in group about the class. Now it's your time. If you have any query, if you have any doubt, if you have any suggestion,
Hello,
yeah,
good evening, sir.
yeah, good evening.
Sir, I want to know what is the word meaning Tinton and Abbey word.
Yeah, when you go the word Tintin and Abbey, remember that Abbey it refers to what? It refers to a sacred place. If I use the word abbey, just like mutt. So when I talk about Tintin Abbey, remember that it's a sacred or holy place in the eye of whom? In the eye of William Wordsworth, a place where the people go or try to see God and His presence. We all believe God is everywhere. God is in your heart. God is in my heart. God is in your thought. God is in my thought. But we make some sacred place just like shrine. Shrine. एक पवित्र स्थल. So when I talk about the word abbey, it refers to that shrine. That's the sacred place. That's the holy place. That's not a, place which is the symbol of the materialistic joy or earthly pleasure. What I want to say, that's not a big bazaar, that's not a pub, a restaurant, coffee house. No, not at all. Not such a type of place. A place where Wordsworth firmly believe, Wordsworth firmly, Wordsworth has a resolution that it's a place where you can see the existence of God in true sense, and you can't see, uh, you can say कि existence of God in such a place where there is a materialistic life, huge mansion, building, bricks, rocks, cemented cemented houses. No, not at all. So that is the sense which he wants to hear explain, which he wants to hear give. That is the basic one.
Thank you so much, sir, for
Okay.
describing.
So now I'm binding up this session. Hope you all have enjoyed.